In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the left valve cover on your G35 Infiniti. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to undo or loosen the nut on the negative cable and remove that, and then just tuck it down to the side. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to remove the 2 nuts and 2 bolts for the engine cover. And remove the engine cover. Push the tab on top of the MAF connector and remove that. There should be an air box right here. The previous owner has deleted that and put in this pod filter. We're going to remove this pod filter. Using a 10mm socket, undo the bolt. Using an 8mm socket, loosen the clamp. Remove the 10mm bolt. Pull the intake off. Under this, there's going to be a hose. Squeeze the clamp, pull it back, and pull the hose off, and remove the intake. Remove the connector for the throttle body. Pinch the tab on the side and pull the connector off. Using a 5mm hex head, you should remove all 4 bolts for the throttle body. Take it off and then just rest it up on the side. None of our bolts are going to be coming out, so we're going to take the coolant hoses off of the throttle body. Get the vacuum hose clamp off the top of the throttle body, and then remove that hose. Remove the 10mm bolt. Slide that back. There should be 2 bolts in here. I believe they would be 10mm. Ours are missing. We're just going to kind of pull that backwards. You don't want to put a lot of tension on that line because it's a fuel rail. Remove the clamp and pull this hose off of the intake manifold. Remove the 10mm bolt for that harness bracket. Remove the 10mm bolt for that harness bracket. There's a 10mm bolt right here for one more harness bracket. While we're here, we're going to undo the connector for the VVT. One more 10mm for a bracket. This would be a bracket as well, tied to right here. To remove that bolt, ours is broken inside. And then there's one more in the back here, just under the harness. We're going to take that one out as well. Remove all of the 10mm bolts on the upper intake. Lift up on the cover. Lift up the cover. If you're going to be taking off the coolant hoses, there's going to be a clamp right here. These should be pressure clamps. It looks like somebody's been here before. So we're going to undo that clamp, then pull the hose off. And when we do this, there will be coolant that goes everywhere. So we're going to make sure there's a rag or something down. Remove the hose. On the bottom of the throttle body, this clamp is supposed to be up here. Pinch it and move it to its position now. And then remove the hose. And then remove the upper intake. Remove these 10mm bolts. I'm going to pull that plate out. Remove the 10mm nuts off the front and the back of the intake plenum. Loosen this clamp, pull it back, and pull this hose off of the lower intake. Remove the lower intake. We're going to remove the equalizer hose from the two sides of the valve cover. There's going to be two connectors on the back. This big gray one, push the tab and remove that. And there's one more black one right here. Little tab on the bottom. Push that and pull back. And that frees up the left side harness. And as we go down the line, we're going to undo the connectors for the ignition coils and the one bulkhead harness right here. We're going to pull up on this white tab and pull straight back. Then we can pull this whole harness forward and lay it right here. I'm going to take this gasket out, put it to the side. Using a trim tool, I'm going to take out all of these plastic connectors for the injector harness. Remove the 10mm bolts for the VVT solenoid. Remove the solenoid. Remove the 10mm bolts for the ignition coils. Remove the ignition coils. I like to keep these in order. I'll put the last one all the way at the top and then the front one all the way in the front. Remove the 10mm bolts for the valve cover. In this back right corner, there's one more 10mm bolt. Remove that bolt. Remove the valve cover. And the gasket. Remove the oil cap if you're going to be reusing it. Using a scraper or a razor blade or a light abrasive, clean the mating surface for the valve cover. Remove any RTV that was previously there. If you're worried about stuff getting into the motor, you can put rags in all of these holes and then one big rag over this. We're going to put a dab of RTV in the corners where the seams are and along this edge right here before we install the cover. We're going to do that on both sides. Just like that. And this has a little crack right here. So we're just going to put a little dab right there. With your RTV down, go ahead and install your cover. Install the back first. You're going to have to push against the hose kind of hard. Install your bolts. I'm going to start mine by hand as I go around. There's going to be a two-step tightening process. Our first step, we're going to go around and we're going to tighten our bolts to 26 inch-pounds. On the second go-around, we're going to be going to 86 inch-pounds. There's a certain order. You're going to start with bolt number 1. This will be number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 is going to be in the front, number 6, number 7 is going to be in the back right, number 8, number 9, and number 10 is all the way in the back. In the second pass, we're going to torque them to 82 inch-pounds in the same order. Put the ignition coils back in place. Install the bolts. Snug them down. Put the plastic clips back in. Install the wiring harness. Get the big gray connector in the back. And get the black one. Pull this harness back from on the side, stick it in, lock it down. If you had bolts that were going to this bracket and this bracket, go ahead and put those back in now. Snug it down. Install the VVT actuator. Plug it in. Snug down the bolts. Torque the VVT bolts to 8 foot-pounds. I'm going to put the 10mm bolt back for this harness bracket. The little rubber ring on and install the oil cap. Install the equalizer hose. Go ahead and clean up this mating surface. Hit it with a little bit of brake clean. Use a bit of parts cleaner and a clean rag and clean it up once you're done scraping it. Then you can remove all of your towels or stoppers or whatever you have. On the bottom of the lower intake, we're going to clean up this mating surface as well. Use a scraper and then a bit of parts cleaner and a clean rag. Clean up any of the oil residue. Install the gasket. And install the lower intake. Install the gasket and this plate. I'm going to start these bolts by hand. Install the nuts on the studs for the lower intake on the front and the back. And then I'm just going to snug everything down. Torque these bolts to 10 foot-pounds. Install the PCV hose to the lower intake. And we're going to pinch that clamp and move it back. Clean the mating surface on the upper intake and then hit it with a bit of parts cleaner and a clean rag. Install the intake in place. But before we do that, install the bottom hose. Pinch the clamp and move it into place. Pull the upper cover into place and install this coolant line onto the throttle body. Install the hose and move the clamp up and then tighten it down. Install the connector for the throttle body. Push until you hear a click. Install the hose to the purge valve. Grab the clamp Slide it forward. Install the vacuum hose. Grab the clamp. Slide it over. The 3 longest bolts go in these back 3 holes. The second largest bolts go in these next 3 holes. And one more goes right here. Go ahead and snug them down. I'm going to put our short bolts in, going around. Go around and snug down all of the bolts. There's a torquing sequence for this, and we're going to torque them to 10 foot-pounds. It's going to be number 1. This is 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. It's going to be 7. 8 is going to be all the way in the back here. 9 is right next to the throttle body on top. This is 10. 11. 12 and 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. Install the bolt for the purge valve bracket. And snug it down. Install the bolt for the wiring harness bracket. Snug that down. Install the 10mm bolt for the harness bracket. Install the vacuum hose onto the intake, and we're going to move that clamp up. Install the intake onto the throttle body. Snug the clamp down. Install the bolt for the intake bracket. Snug that down. If you have an air box, install that now. We only have the pod filter, so we're just going to install the bracket for that. Install the connector to the mass airflow sensor. Install the engine cover. There's 2 studs in the front. 2 back bolts. Snug them down. Grab your negative cable, put it on the terminal, and snug it down.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.